Section 31, a secret leader, makes no sense after Star Trek Discovery. For decades, Section 31 has been one of the most intriguing and enigmatic elements in Star Trek. First introduced in Deep Space Nine as a clandestine intelligence agency operating outside Starfleet's chain of command, it has since appeared across multiple series, novels, and comics. The organization's mystique comes largely from its ambiguity. Is it a rogue cell of zealots, or is it a sanctioned but unofficial arm of the Federation? By the time Star Trek Discovery reached its second season, Section 31's prominence in Federation affairs had skyrocketed, and the series even laid the groundwork for a spin-off led by Michelle Yeoh's Philippa Georgiou. Yet, despite these tantalizing developments, the reveal of Section 31, a supposed secret leader in later canon, has left many fans scratching their heads. The problem isn't just that the revelation feels underwhelming, it actively contradicts the tone and history Discovery built for Section 31. By trying to give the shadowy group a face and a singular mastermind, the franchise has inadvertently stripped it of the very qualities that made it so compelling. Let's break down why Section 31, a secret leader, makes no sense in the wake of Star Trek Discovery, and what this says about the future of Star Trek's covert storytelling. Section 31 thrived on ambiguity. When Section 31 debuted in Deep Space Nine, it wasn't a flashy Black Ops team with starships and uniforms. It was represented by one man, the chillingly polite Luther Sloan. Sloan didn't carry a badge or wield flashy tech. He simply asserted that Section 31 existed and that his actions were for the Federation's greater good. He also insisted, credibly, that the organization had no official hierarchy. Instead, Section 31 was presented as a decentralized network of operatives who believed they were protecting the Federation from threats it couldn't address openly. This framing was crucial. It made Section 31 feel like an ideological movement more than a formal agency, something that grew in the Federation's blind spots. By design, it had no leader who could be unmasked and stopped. It was an idea, not a bureaucracy. Even when Enterprise revisited the organization in the 22nd century, its covert nature was maintained. We saw its operatives manipulating Starfleet officers like Malcolm Reed, but never learned who was at the top. That was part of the point. Section 31 was the Federation's dirty little secret, the part of the utopia no one wanted to talk about. By giving it a singular, named leader, the franchise takes that mystique and crushes it under the weight of a Bond villain reveal. Discovery's high-tech version of Section 31, Star Trek Discovery Season 2, marked the first time Section 31 was depicted as a major power player with actual ships, crews, and a quasi-official status. Fans were divided on this change. Some loved seeing the Black Badge operatives and their state-of-the-art technology, while others felt it betrayed the clandestine nature of Section 31. Still, the show leaned into the ambiguity by showing multiple agents and chains of command. Georgiou, for instance, was presented not as Section 31's head, but as one of its most valuable and dangerous assets. Leland, another Section 31 figure, oversaw missions but didn't appear to be the leader either. In fact, one of Discovery's smartest moves was making Section 31's involvement with Control, the rogue AI, feel like a bureaucratic accident rather than a top-down scheme. It wasn't an evil mastermind plotting everything. It was an organization too arrogant to notice its own vulnerability. This preserved the essential Star Trek theme that institutions can go astray not because of cartoon villains, but because of flawed people and misplaced confidence. When Discovery Season 3 jumped nearly a millennium into the future, Section 31 was mostly left behind, but its influence loomed large. The series seemed to be teeing up the Michelle Yeoh spin-off to explore its darker corners in more detail. Yet instead of expanding the decentralized, ideological aspect of Section 31, later canon decided to name a secret leader, and everything fell apart. The secret leader problem. When a story introduces a shadowy cabal, there's often a temptation to personify it through a single villain. It's a familiar trope. Hydra has the Red Skull, the Foot Clan has the Shredder, and the First Order has Supreme Leader Snoke. This can work in pulpy genre fiction, but it clashes with Star Trek's ethos of moral complexity. By revealing a secret leader of Section 31, the franchise essentially reframes the organization from a morally ambiguous element of Federation culture into the fiefdom of one person's agenda. This contradicts everything Discovery and Deep Space Nine before it established. Section 31 wasn't supposed to be a single entity with a headquarters and a boss. It was a virus in the Federation's immune system. Naming a leader doesn't just simplify it. It undermines decades of world building about how institutions perpetuate secrecy. Moreover, the supposed leader's identity doesn't line up with the timelines or philosophies previously depicted. In some tie-in material, the leader is portrayed as an enigmatic figure who's been guiding Section 31 for centuries, which stretches plausibility even by Star Trek standards. In others, the leader's motives are cartoonishly villainous, erasing the moral grayness that made Section 31 scary. The result? Instead of a nuanced, covert organization, we're left with a generic big bad whose defeat presumably ends Section 31, a scenario completely at odds with how such networks actually function. Why this especially undercuts Discovery. The irony is that Discovery provided the perfect blueprint for how to handle Section 31 without a leader. The show depicted it as a sprawling, sometimes incompetent bureaucracy with multiple agendas. Georgiou was an anti-hero who could pivot between ally and adversary. Leland was an ambitious but fallible operative who ultimately became a pawn of control. Even the Black Badge agents came across as a mix of true believers and careerists. This was fertile ground for future stories. The proposed Section 31 series starring Michelle Yeoh could have leaned into this ambiguity, showing an ex-emperor navigating an organization with no single center of power. Instead, by introducing a secret leader, the franchise risks turning Yeoh's show into yet another hero versus villain saga instead of a morally complex spy thriller. Worse, Discovery already answered the question of how dangerous is Section 31 through Control. The AI storyline was essentially Section 31's hubris writ large, a covert project gone wrong, threatening the entire galaxy. That's a much more compelling cautionary tale than one bad apple ran the whole thing. The Federation's dirty hands worked better without a face. Thematically, Section 31 has always been a mirror for the Federation's ideals. It asks, can a utopia survive without dirty hands? If not, who gets to do the dirty work? By personifying Section 31 as a single leader, the story loses this mirror effect. Suddenly, the Federation isn't complicit, it's just being manipulated by a rogue mastermind that lets the institution off the hook, which is exactly the opposite of the critique Section 31 was designed to provide. Think about Deep Space Nine's Inquisition episode, where Sloan abducts Bashir. There's no evil boss behind him, just an ideology that's metastasized inside the Federation. That's chilling because it feels plausible. Real-world democracies don't typically harbor secret agencies because of one puppet master. They do so because systems of power incentivize secrecy. Section 31 was Star Trek's way of exploring the uncomfortable truth. What could still work? All of this isn't to say a named leader can never work. A clever twist could reveal that the leader is a facade, a rotating cover identity, an AI-generated figurehead, or even a deliberate hoax to mislead enemies. This would restore the decentralized mystique of a leader and